Hello, welcome back. Today, we're going to be explaining the movie titled Cruel Intentions. The movie talks about a young, rich and charming boy who gets any girl he wants on bed. Then he strikes a deal with his cruel stepsister to get down with the school's headmaster daughter who upholds her standard of being a tough virgin. But at the end things turn out different. Let's find out. Do like and subscribe. Watch out, spoilers ahead. The movie begins with Sebastian in his car going for his scheduled therapy session. In therapy, he talks with the old lady and seems to be flirting with her. She gives him a book to help him stay on track, and Sebastian requested for a hug. She hugs him and her telephone rings. They tell her it's her daughter, but she puts the call on hold. Sebastian picks up a table frame and asks her if the girl on the picture is her daughter, and the old woman says yes. Sebastian tells her the girl is his type, but the woman tells him her daughter is totally out of her league. When Sebastian leaves, the woman takes the call and her daughter tells her of a breakup with her private picture on the internet. She tells her it's Sebastian, and the woman goes cursing Sebastian from the top office floor. Sebastian smiles and takes a girl he just met out. We see Kathryn, the school president known for her good moral conducts, with Cecilia and her mother. Cecilia's mom had just brought her daughter to Kathryn for moral grooming. Kathryn shows them her cross necklace and tells Cecilia that whenever she feels depressed, she turns to God and he helps her through it. Cecilia's mom is impressed. Sebastian comes in and begins to flirt with Cecilia as she's way too easy for him. They leave later. When they leave, Sebastian shows Kathryn a virgin's manifesto known as Annette. He tells her she'd be his greatest victory as her dad has just accepted the headmaster position in the school, and Kathryn tells him he doesn't stand a chance. Sebastian tells her Annette is coming to stay with his aunt while her parents sell their house. Kathryn asks Sebastian a favor of sleeping with Cecilia because her boyfriend Connor dumped her for Cecilia, but Sebastian tells her Cecilia is way too easy for him and that sleeping with her won't add anything to his reputation. He tells her Annette would add a lot to his reputation, and Kathryn gets mad because she wants to ruin Cecilia's life. Kathryn gets Sebastian into a bet of getting his car if he doesn't get to sleep with Annette before school starts, while Sebastian would finally get to sleep with Kathryn if she loses the deal. They shake on it. Sebastian goes to his aunt's house and welcomes Annette and his aunt. He tells Annette he read her manifesto and that he finds it appalling because she criticizes something she hasn't experienced before. Annette tells him she's not criticizing, rather she's just saying people have to wait until they are in love to have sex. She also tells him a friend wrote her about his reputation of sleeping with girls in the school by charming them, and Sebastian is surprised. Cecilia is taking violin classes with Ronald, a man her mother hired to teach her. Kathryn steps in and watches them get almost intense, and she distracts them. They talk a bit and Kathryn observes Cecilia is in love with him. Later, Cecilia and Kathryn are in a picnic together, and Kathryn tells her she sees she's in love with Ronald and that Ronald loves her too. She tells Kathryn she's not sure she's ready because she hasn't even passed the first phase of knowing how to kiss a guy. She asks her if she hasn't practiced with any of her girlfriends, and Cecilia says it's gross. Kathryn teaches her with her lips. When they finish, Cecilia wishes she never stopped. Cecilia tells Kathryn out of trust that Ronald sends her love letters, and Kathryn urges her to photocopy them and send them to her so she could help her reply Ronald. At night, Sebastian plays a song and it disturbs Annette in her room. She gets out and Sebastian gives her a gift and asks her if she would like to swim with him, and she agrees. When she goes in to change, Kathryn calls Sebastian and asks him if he's gotten her in bed yet, and Sebastian says he's almost there confidently. In the pool, Sebastian tells her she's beautiful and smart and determined, and Annette tells him listing her qualities won't get him anywhere close to her. She climbs away and gets into her room, and Sebastian is frustrated. Sebastian meets a friend who owes him a favor, one of Annette's childhood friends, to help him get Annette to reveal who wrote her the letter of avoiding him. He does it, and Sebastian tells Kathryn that it's Mrs. Caldwell, Cecilia's mom, and that he's ready to do everything in his power to make her pay, which means they would have to go through her daughter, Cecilia. They plan on telling Cecilia's mom about Ronald sending her love letters, and then use him once Mrs. Caldwell fires him. That night, Sebastian calls Annette, and they go out the following day. Kathryn reports Cecilia to Mrs. Caldwell, and she fires Ronald, but Kathryn tells her to make sure she's discreet by not revealing who exposed the secret love letters. When Mrs. Caldwell fires Ronald, Kathryn and Sebastian waits for him down the elevator. They give him Cecilia's reply, which Kathryn wrote, and tells him to reply her, and that they would help him give it to Cecilia. Kathryn calls Cecilia, and Sebastian gives her a plan to leave her mom's house and come over at her place so she can get the letter, but it's just a plan to get Sebastian to sleep with her. Cecilia comes over that night and Sebastian seduces her, after which he sleeps with her. The next day, Mrs. Caldwell goes to Cecilia's room and searches for her. She turns and Cecilia tells her she went shopping. Mrs. Caldwell tells her to hurry because they're late for the invitation to Sebastian's aunt's house. There, Sebastian meets Annette and Cecilia is irritated by what had happened the previous night, and she excuses herself. Later, Sebastian and Annette are on their way back home after carrying out an assignment for his aunt, and Annette tells him his problem is that he takes his life too seriously. She makes him laugh, and they hold hands. We see Cecilia in the house, and Kathryn comes in. Cecilia tells Kathryn that she slept with Sebastian, and Kathryn pretends she's a mistake. But then she asks Cecilia if she liked it, and Cecilia gives her the details. Kathryn tells her she had an orgasm and that it would be bad if she stopped practicing. Cecilia tells her she doesn't love Sebastian but Ronald, and Kathryn tells her to sleep with many people as possible so she could please Ronald one day. That night, Sebastian is writing on his journal and Cecilia tries to kiss him, but he pushes her away. He tells her it's his quiet time. In the morning, Sebastian is looking at Annette and Kathryn checks who he is spying on. Sebastian acts weird around Kathryn, and she tells him Annette is really getting into him. But Sebastian tries to remain rigid. She asks him if she can take her new car for a ride, but he tells her that the only thing she'll be riding is him on bed, and he walks away to meet Annette outside. He kneels beside her, and then after kissing her cheek, he kisses her lips and Annette returns the kiss, but then she breaks away from it. Sebastian, who is offended, asks her if she doesn't feel anything for him, and she says she does, but she doesn't trust her body with him. That night, Sebastian visits her in her room and tells her he would be leaving because he's tired of her games and that she was a hypocrite who loves him but then can't sleep with him, even when he clearly loves her back. Annette tells him to stay. She unbuttons her cloth and lies on the bed. Sebastian gets so love-struck that he doesn't want to honor the deal anymore, so he leaves. Annette leaves the next morning. Sebastian is still asleep when Kathryn wakes him up. She asks him how it went, and Sebastian says he couldn't because he was love-struck. Kathryn mocks him by telling him Annette left, and Sebastian leaves the room to find her. He calls her friend, and he tells him she's at the train station, and Sebastian speeds on. Sebastian meets her at the train station. When she sees him, she tells him she's impressed, and he tells her he's in love. They kiss, and later that night, he sleeps with her. He sees her off in a taxi, and Kathryn watches from upstairs. The next day, Sebastian is feeling happy, and just as he's about to enter his room, he hears Kathryn's soft moans, and he opens the door. He opens a drawer and sees Ronald in it. Ronald greets him and leaves. Kathryn tells him that since he's slept with Annette, she supposes he has come to make arrangements with her, but Sebastian turns her down and she gets upset. She comes out later and tells Sebastian that he's in love with Annette, which means he doesn't love her anymore. But Sebastian tells her nothing has changed. She convinces him that love is going to reduce him to nothing and shatter his legacy, which he has built for years. Sebastian leaves. For some time, he continues to ponder on what Kathryn told him. He visits Annette in her hotel, and she welcomes him to her room. She tells him they can be quick, but Sebastian declines and tells her cruel words like she was nothing but a conquest to him. Annette is very hurt, and when he realizes he doesn't mean what he said, he tries to apologize, but she slaps him and tells him to leave. He gets back to his place, and he offers a toast to Kathryn, who tells him he is nothing but a toy which she waves at her will. She tells him he had a chance of finding one true love, and then he was stupid enough to throw it away just because she pushed him, and Sebastian is perplexed and angry with himself. He calls Annette, but she doesn't respond. He leaves for her house, and a woman tells him Annette isn't around. He tries to scream her name, but she shushes him. He leaves her his journal and a letter to give to Annette and tells the woman it's very important that Annette gets it. We see Annette standing behind a door. Later, Annette reads the letter and Sebastian tells her he's sorry, and he tells her to read the journal in which he talks about the deceit and cruelty of Kathryn, the school president that everyone looks up to for moral standards. Sebastian waits by the rock in opposite Annette's room, hoping she would come out and see him. That night, Annette calls Ronald, who is with Cecilia, and tells him to come because it's very urgent, but Ronald declines and tells her he wants to be with Cecilia. Annette tells him what she's about to tell him also regards Cecilia, and Ronald leave to meet her. In the morning, Sebastian slept there, and when Annette didn't come to see him outside, he begins to walk away. Annette sees him from the window and goes after him. Meanwhile, Kathryn's poisoned Ronald's mind about Sebastian, and he is walking toward his place to meet him, while Sebastian is walking home too, and Annette running after Sebastian. Ronald sees Sebastian and confronts him. He tells him Kathryn told him everything and that he slept with Cecilia. Sebastian tries to apologize, but Ronald punches him in the face and they begin to fight. Annette comes closer and pushes Ronald away, but she falls to the main road. On the floor, Annette runs to him and he tells her he loves her, and Annette tells him same. The policemen rush to the scene. It dissolves to Sebastian's funeral, and Annette's father, who is the new headmaster, is giving a speech. In the bathroom, Kathryn is doing drugs before she gives her speech, and Annette walks in. They talk briefly, and Annette tells her whenever she's depressed, she always turns to Jesus, and he helps her through it. Kathryn is giving her speech, and someone walks into the crowd and gives someone a paper. Soon a lot of people begin to leave, and they stare back at her while they go outside. Kathryn becomes infuriated, and she walks briskly outside. Outside, she sees everyone reading a photocopied book, and Cecilia walks up to her and hands her one. Kathryn opens it and sees it's Sebastian's journal exposing her secrets. Someone unhooks her cross necklace and finds the drug Sebastian talked about in the journal, and they are all disappointed at her. We see Annette driving Sebastian's car now, and she remembers her memories of him and smiles. Beside her is his journal, and she speeds on. The movie ends here. Do like and subscribe for more videos like this. Bye for now.